Okay, so here we are with another of the local pilot theory illustrations for the Greater Manchester local pilot, where we're looking at different features of whole systems working to bring about changes in people's lives and enable active lives. So as you know, there are 5 features of whole systems working that we are prioritising in Greater Manchester, and today we're going to look at learning and adapting. Okay, so there's a really key reason why we're looking at learning and adapting, and as that being a fundamental aspect of the working pilot. And that is because there are no targets or KPIs attached to this work. We're looking for meaningful change, but it's well recognised that we don't actually know what that is, and we don't want to presuppose how we're going to get there, particularly when we're talking about systemic change, so changes that might be across policy areas or might be as a result of different people working together. Of course, we want to overall ensure that more people are active and are active in a way that supports their well-being, but the route to get there is as yet unknown. So that means that absolutely core to this work is a commitment to learning, and if we are able to do that, that means that people across the system will be reflecting on their practice. They'll be learning about what works and what doesn't work, and where there are ways to improve what they're working, they'll be adapting their practice. But what we've actually recognised in the local pilot, there hasn't been a strong emphasis on critical reflection within the work. There's been more of an emphasis on doing and delivering, and not necessarily on learning and working to improve upon that in a very conscious way. So we've worked with local pilot partners to think about how to build their critical reflection capacity, and the evaluation lead in Greater Manchester Moving has also been working with various different groups to be able to bring their learning and understanding on. And what we've really come to the conclusion is that the best way of people learning is to be able to share their stories of what's worked and what hasn't worked, and to together collectively try to make sense of what's working, and think about whether or not those things might apply in their own context, and if not, why not. And we're starting to see that this is now recognised as part of the work, part and parcel of the work, and people are developing the appropriate skills and motivation to engage in the learning. Another really important aspect of this theory area is to think about where does the information or data come from that people are reflecting about. And the recognition across the pilot is that that doesn't come from one source, or that one source should necessarily be privileged over another. That actually it can come from working with local people, using local data, thinking about best practice that might be from elsewhere, and also the theory and evidence that is derived from this evaluation and the other evaluative exercises that are going on across local pilot in Greater Manchester. And one example that we would share is the work that the evaluation team themselves have done over the last 6 months, engaging with the Sport England local community of learning and recognising that there are different ways to portray the information and insight in order to engage as many people as possible. And many of the stakeholders across Greater Manchester have said to us in these last 6 months that the experience of responding and reacting to the COVID crisis, and the recognition of the extent to which that has shown physical activity to be a priority or not within their places that they work or their local communities, has been a real hiatus in the work and given them time to reflect and think about how to move this work forward. And for others who have just been completely busy and working flat out on the COVID response, they've developed new ideas and new links and new relationships and new insights, particularly into certain community sector organisations or the communities they work with, that they can build on to develop new approaches going forward. So I'd just like to finish this theory area by thinking about the fact that how disorientating actually some people are finding it not to have any KPIs and targets associated with the work. I think that what we're seeing is that where there's a really strong vision locally about how to develop and to work across the system to bring about active lives, this hasn't been so much of a problem. But where that vision is not shared necessarily across a number of stakeholders, or it's not that clear, then it's been more difficult for people to really make the strong progress they were hoping to. And so for the next 6 months, we'll go back to what are the meaningful goals that will demonstrate that we are making progress towards our ambitions to enable active lives. And find more and innovative ways to engage everyone across the system and beyond Greater Manchester in this learning, so that they can also reflect on their practice and adapt as they go forward.